Welcome back, Resonators, for Rhymes That Resonate, where we engage in conversations shaped by music and driven by meaning. Um, Thank you all for tuning in. Today, I have with me Schnell, a content creator and full-time coach, weight loss coach who has built a community of over 670,000 people who have invested in her journey, who have tuned into her journey not only as a somebody losing weight and continuing the journey to be strong, but also as a mother and a wife as well. So, thank you, Desiree, for joining us. And please tell the people about yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So yeah, my name's Des. I live in Arizona. Like you said, I am a full-time content creator, but I also actually I coach weight loss clients. I have a little bit over 100 clients currently, over the last year, I've coached over 200 women. So it's been
Wow.
a super incredible, amazing journey. I have learned so much through that endeavor. And I also never I never want to leave out the fact that I am a mom to two amazing, amazing kids. That I have an 8-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter, and um, they are what drives me to
Mhm.
do what I do. And I always mention my husband last when really he should probably be first, but he's my biggest supporter. He's just given me the leg that I needed to stand on the last 11, almost 11 years we've been married. So yeah, that's pretty much me. I think that's about it. That's me.
There we go. And, I definitely appreciate that. And, it's funny, right? Because, of course, Tommy was a guest on the show. And, people often, have feelings when you put your spouse last. But, in my belief, sometimes like that positioning is not necessarily not a place of honor. Like that's the one that's closest to me. That's the strength. And like you said, my spouse, I may say her last, but it's like, but not least, definitely,
No, yeah, last but not least.
like the most, and so I appreciate that, and again appreciate you joining. And gonna get into the three songs, but like, there's things about those three songs, right? So you shared Fat Funny Friend by Maddie Zom, Rainbow by Casey Musgraves, and Daisies by Katy Perry. And so before diving into those themes and those threads that those songs share, I have to ask, how did you get started on this journey?
Sorry, on this journey as far as what? Like,
As far as, being a full-time coach, a
oh,
content creator, and, bringing people into your journey again, your 75-pound weight loss road.
yeah, so the songs definitely tell the story. So we'll get into that. But I, you know, about 3 years ago, I was pretty freshly postpartum. I had really hard births with both of my kids, and just
Mhm,
I was married young. I had kids young, and so I think part of that is just, and I tell Tommy this all the time too, because we got married so young, because we had kids so young, we had to like grow up while
mhm,
we're, navigating a marriage and navigating becoming parents and being parents. And so
mhm,
it's just a lot, it's a lot all at once. And then on top of that, of course, I have a traumatic birth with my first
mhm,
and lots of trauma that goes, around that. And then I had my daughter and, postpartum depression, all the things like,
mhm,
I feel like I just got handed all the all the worst things you could get handed as far as just like becoming a new mom and
mhm,
being postpartum. And so that was the first time that I ever experienced anxiety.
mhm,
I had my first anxiety attack like 3 days after having my son, and uh, had to walk through that. And so as I was walking through all these hard things, I was gaining weight very rapidly, and also like some women lose weight while they breastfeed, but some women just gain. And I was on the gaining side. Like I
mhm.
just gained probably like 60 pounds in like 6 months. Like it was insane.
Wow.
And I wasn't really doing anything different other than just breastfeeding my daughter.
Mhm,
And so, there was one day I was out shopping and I came home and I was like, I just remember feel like while I was shopping, because I live in a small town, so I saw a lot of people I knew, and I remember feeling so self conscious about the way that I looked, because it
Mhm.
was the heaviest I had ever been. I was over 300 pounds. I really honestly don't even know how much I weighed at my heaviest because a lot of us avoid the scale when we're in
Mm.
those seasons anyways. And so I always say over 300 pounds. I don't know the exact number. I very well have lost more than 75 pounds. But I do know that I felt like that was the lowest I've ever felt. And I actually put
Mhm.
my camera up. When I got home, I put my camera up and I hit record and I just recorded what I looked like in that moment.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't even really know, like, I wasn't really planning on documenting the journey, to be honest. I just wanted it for myself. Like, I wanted that video for myself. And I just recently actually shared the actual audio of that video. And it
Mhm.
is it's not funny, but it is kinda funny. Like, my daughter is, like, I don't know, 6 months in the video, and she is, like, screaming bloody murder. I don't know where
Mhm.
she was somewhere nearby,
Mhm.
crying, and it's just like that the sound of that video just represents what was going on in my brain at the moment. Like, I was just
Wow.
that was the lowest point, I think, of my life, and I don't know what, light switched in me or what I don't know what happened, but I got right on it. I started doing research, I started learning. I started out with like a really unhealthy diet that I wouldn't recommend to anybody, but I lost a little bit of weight.
Mhm.
I did the GLP-1 thing for a little bit. Lots of different trial and error. And then finally I was like, kept seeing stuff about calorie deficits everywhere. I was like, I guess I'll try that. I don't know.
Mhm.
Come to find out, that's literally what you're supposed to do, right? Like,
That's it.
if you're on a diet, you're in a calorie deficit, so it doesn't matter
Mhm.
what diet you're doing. And then I don't know what came over me, but I decided to get a gym membership and start lifting. And I had been lifting for about 6 months, and I went and got my blood work done by like a hormone doctor.
Mhm.
And he told me that, I more than likely have PCOS. And then he said, what's so cool about having PCOS? It's like as a woman who lifts, who has PCOS, it's like having a superpower
Mm.
because your body puts on muscle so fast. And,
Mhm.
a lot of my viral content is my like body recomposition and just how fast I was able to kind of like recomp and rebuild my shape, I guess.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that was like a cool thing to learn. And I just fell in love with strength training. I fell in love with all things fitness and um just was sharing it. I was sharing it like crazy and it was doing well. Like I wasn't necessarily going viral or anything, but I had built up from like maybe 3,000 followers to like 20,000 followers.
Mm.
And when I hit 20, I was at around 20 and I had this email from some guy in my DMs, or not in my DM, in my email, in my spam folder. And I kept seeing it, like he kept emailing me. I was like, what's the guy want? And he kept saying, like, you're sitting on like a business opportunity. And like
Mhm.
just things like it's just and I was like, what is this? And I finally opened the email and it's this guy and he's like talking to me and saying how much money I can make by doing online coaching, like
Mhm.
utilizing the community I already have. And I was like, "Oh, kind of broke, so that'd be nice to like monetize a little bit of it."
No.
And yeah, so I got on a call with him and we chatted, and he basically explained to me like how to start online coaching.
Mhm.
Because I had played around with the idea, but I didn't know how to do it. Like how do you even start that? I had no idea, and
Mhm.
uh, so yeah, he helped me get started. I work through a company now that provides like my app and my website and all the things. And yeah, like his name is Jordan. I should give him a name. His name is Jordan. He's my account manager for the company that I coach through.
Mhm.
And I'm so thankful that he found me. Like I tell him all the time, like, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for finding me and for just building me up to
Yeah.
the coach that I've become now. Like it really like and it was just I went back to work in about a month after I launched coaching, and I quit my job by like the first month back into
Wow.
work because I was already making more money than I was making at the job. And so yeah, just and from there we've just built and built. And I had my first like mega viral video in January, and my
Mhm.
following went from like 20,000 to like 200,000 overnight. And
Wow.
yeah, it was insane. And TikTok I've always done TikTok just like for fun. So I kind of had a good following over there,
Hmm.
but we're at almost 500,000.
Yeah,
So it's,
that's incredible.
yeah.
That's I mean, and it just shows it takes, a little bit of a push, or even just a guide stone, or something. It doesn't take much to really help somebody walk in their purpose. And that's a lot of what I think, some of your work lends to, is helping others walk in their purpose. But I think even before going into that, one thing I'd like to ask is, you mentioned a condition that you have, and for those who are not familiar with it, could you um, give us insight to what that is?
Yeah, so I have something called PCOS. It's called polycystic ovarian PC. Yeah, polycystic ovarian syndrome is what it's called.
Mhm,
Um, and it essentially causes women's bodies to become like insulin resistant. And so, and a lot more women have it, I think, than actually know.
mhm,
Because I always just thought that I had bad genetics. Like,
mhm,
like, both my parents have struggled with their weight. And so I just had always kind of assumed that's what it was. And so getting the answer to that was super cool, because then, you can we now as a coach, when a client comes to me that has PCOS, then I can, assign them very specific macros and
mhm.
routines that help them. But really what helps more than anything is strength training. So it was
Yeah,
crazy how I had that. I didn't know it, but I was literally doing the thing that I needed to heal it at the same time, like without even knowing. So
yeah. Well, and that is why representation matters, right? Like, I had a conversation, well, I was on a panel for my employer recently, and one of the questions that came up was like, what can people who are not, you, do to support people like you, right? And my statement was, like, connect with others, educate yourselves, because like that education is a barrier, or the lack thereof is a barrier for being able to show up empathetically. And when you show up empathetically, your social awareness is higher, and you're able to respond to situations, fully, right? And so, like you said, even though like that may not be the condition, may not be the deciding factor, right? Like, it still helps to recognize, and that awareness changes certain things about how you go about doing your business or coaching. And so, again, why representation matters, and I'll stand on that. I'll die on that
yeah,
hill.
absolutely. Heck yeah.
So, full-time content creator, do you ever just sit with that? Like, do you ever just like sit in that and say like, wow, this is what I've built, and this is what it is?
It's been, I mean, I what's been the biggest realization for me that like this is my job is like being out and about now and like people
Mhm.
recognizing me. Like
Hmm.
that's crazy to me. I'm like, what? Even my husband is at a jujitsu competition right now,
Mhm.
and he just called me before this, and he said, "Hey, this random girl came up to me at the competition and was like, 'Hey, are you Dez's husband?'" And he was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, just tell her that I love her videos," and like she was just going on, and
That's amazing.
like that's cool, like that's so cool. And it's not even the fact that like people recognize me; it's just the fact that I get to make an actual difference. Like
Mhm.
being an influencer is one thing, right? But like being somebody who is influential is different.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
like I really really truly believe that I am like living in my life's purpose right now. Like I feel so fulfilled with what I do. And in content creation, I feel like it's an art, right? Like it's some sort of an art. And I always thought that I would do music for a living. Like I really did.
Mhm. Mhm.
But when you have kids, like you quickly realize that's not even an option.
Mhm.
And so I found other ways to practice my art, I guess. And this is what I landed on. And it's a really, really cool job. It comes with its things, just like everything else. But
Right. Right.
I really, I love what I do. I really do.
That's super inspiring, especially to somebody like myself who's, working on building content to be a full-time content creator, possibly. Like, I also wanted to do music, And I started this podcast one day, actually the day after I moved into this house. I called up my buddy Kyle and I was like, hey man, like I just need to do this, right? Because I hadn't created in so long, right? And that need to create, it went from being like, oh, it'd be cool to do something, right, to like, I need to. And so this podcast was born that day. So I totally resonate, ding ding ding. All right, but I totally resonate with your inspiration to create and find different ways to channel your creativity. But would you have ever believed up until like this chapter in your life that over 500,000 people are invested in you and what you do?
I don't
What?
know. I actually have been reflecting so much on this lately, and I don't
Mhm,
even know why. Like, I've just really been thinking about like just life a lot lately and like where I've
mhm,
landed. And I was thinking about this earlier today. I was talking to ChatGPT earlier, I'm not gonna lie. I saw this like prompt on TikTok where you can like ask it certain questions about like your life and stuff. And
mhm,
it just got me thinking, and I was like, ever since I was a little girl, I really I always just felt like I was going to like help a lot of people. And like so
mm,
I've gone through a lot of different phases, right? Like I've at one point I wanted to be a teacher, one point I wanted to be a pediatrician, at one point, like I wanted to do music and I wrote music and I loved it. And I've gone through all these different phases. I owned a
mhm,
boutique and I sold clothes, but I didn't just sell clothes. Like sold clothes to all sizes. And so like I had this whole movement with that. And I always have known that like my life's purpose was to help people.
mhm,
Did I know that it was to help this many people? No.
mhm,
That was definitely not, something that I thought was even possible, and some days I'm like, this is just like pure luck. Like I'm always like, you just got lucky. You like put out the right thing and it
mhm,
resonated and here
mhm.
you are.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know, I don't know if that really answers the question, but
No,
I don't, I don't
I think it does. And it's we like belief, right? Belief is like one of the main themes I saw through all three songs, which we'll get into really really shortly. But like that belief that you were going to inspire, help, support people. And like we have these beliefs as kids, or as we grow. And like oftentimes I find that like what we thought we were going to do isn't necessarily the way we thought we were going to do it, but we still may be doing it, right? Perfect example. Well, I hope it's a perfect example, but when I was younger, I wanted to be two things. I wanted to be an astronaut and I wanted to be a philanthropist, right? And
like,
I'm not an astronaut, but I am a philanthropist, right? I didn't know you can get a job doing philanthropy. And I literally just like the path was cleared on my way out of active duty army to doing this role, which is essentially when like people say like dream job, like my dream job, right? I get paid to help people in a certain way, but specifically to do philanthropy, right? And there's no greater like role that I could be employed to do. I think right now, when the time comes for me to step out on my own, I will. But the relation is like as a kid, I thought I had to like go be Tony Stark, right, or Bruce
yeah.
Wayne in order to do philanthropy. I didn't know that it would be available to me in this current form, but I'm still able to do it in a way that wasn't the way I originally thought it would be. Um, but that I think does segue into the again a key theme of the songs that you chose, belief. And the first song is Fat Funny Friend by Maddie Zom. And before I ask you about it, I just want to say like I heard this song and I thought this is one of the biggest benefits to doing this show, right? Like I've never heard the artist, never heard the song, and like I've definitely struggled with the mentality of being the fat funny friend, right? So please, can you give us some insight as to why you chose Fat Funny Friend?
Yeah. So Fat Funny Friend, oh my goodness. I've been a fan of Maddie Zom for a long time. If you don't know anything about Maddie Zom, she was actually on American Idol
Mhm,
back in the day. When Maddie Poppy, I think, is who won. There was two Maddies that season, and I remember just being like so drawn to Maddie's mom because she was bigger, and I was like, hey,
Mm,
like it's not just I'm not the only bigger girl out here. Like there's more, and there's more representing, right? And
mhm,
so I really related to her. But then when she started making music as an adult, I was like, she's been through like so much, right? A lot of like religious trauma, which I have, and she's also I think she's a bisexual woman. So there's like different, lots of heavy topics in her music,
mhm,
and it so I just love her so much. When she came out with Fat Funny Friend, I was like, not, I saw the title before, and she did a little like, there was a little it was just the part where it's like I've drawn out in Sharpie where I take the scissors, like that part, and it
mhm,
went viral, right? Like, so it was just that part. The song hadn't released yet, and I actually made a video because everybody was making videos. It was like a trend on TikTok,
mhm.
and I made a video, and it went so viral on TikTok, like
Really?
millions of views, and so that was like kind of my first, I guess, interaction with that song. Like I
Mhm,
heard it, I was like, this is good. Posted that video. When the song came out, like I just remember listening to the full thing and just crying because I was like, wow, somebody finally gets it. Like
mhm.
I have always been the funny friend. Like, and I'll stand on the fact that I'm funny too. Like I like that.
Okay, fair. Okay.
But I have always been the fat friend as well. And,
Mhm,
always being in the room, you're in a room full of women, and I've always surrounded myself with the best women, like I'll stand on that. Um, but I'm still that I've never compared myself as far as like internally, right? I've never said,
mhm,
oh, like my friend is, like she's so much cooler than me, or she's so much like funnier than me, or things like that. It's always my size. And I don't know if
mhm,
that's how it is with other women as well, like I don't know if we all just compare ourselves, but man, like to take a picture with a group of your friends and then to look back at it and be like, "Oh, I'm the biggest one." Like every single time, I'm the biggest one. It really, really just cuts your just cuts you down every single time. And so
mhm,
to actually be heard and be like, I felt so seen when I
mhm,
heard this song. And not only that, but it came out at a time where I was like I was at the beginning of my journey. I was at the beginning of my weight loss.
mhm.
Like I had started, but I was still like just at the very beginning. Um, and so yeah, like the song is just it's literally still when I listen to it, it's like it just takes me back. Like it's like listening or looking at my old self like every single time because I have evolved a lot as a person, like I still do see myself as like the funny, like bigger friend, but I don't see that as like a bad thing anymore,
Mhm. Mhm.
But back when the song came out, it definitely was it made me feel seen in all of like the deepest, darkest places, I guess, is a
Yeah.
good way.
Yeah, that's it's interesting, right? Because like the way that you interpret the song is, like very real, right? Like I interpreted that song very theoretically. And like I mentioned earlier, like, the concept, the mentality of being the fat funny friend, right? Because a lot of the themes that I heard, I'm gonna list a couple out, but like deflection, right? And shrinking to make others feel comfortable, seeking external validation, and like something that I couldn't help but like the Jan Brady effect, right? The Marsha, right? Like, um, boomers will get it. And so and like what I really, what I took away from all that was, like, being in a room full of people and, feeling like an imposter, feeling like I don't belong, um, feeling like what I can see is the value, right? Versus, like you said, internally, like, am I a good person? Can I answer that today? Is that even on my mind today, right? Am I doing the right thing? Am I with the right people, right? None of those questions at time even come across the awareness because, I may be focusing on where we're at, what we're doing, who's engaging with who, whatever. And now I'm looking at this other person, not necessarily as competition, but like I'm the other. And like I'm sociology by trade, right? Or by education, like the other being the out group, right? The other guy. Um, and that's a lonely feeling, but it's going back to the word belief, right? It's a belief it's just a belief, right? It's here, it's between the ears. Um, and so one line that I pulled out, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it, or even any of the themes that I've shared. But she says, I've done every diet, still feel so damned inferior, right? Like, how
Yeah.
does that hit you, relate to you, and how do you receive that?
Yeah, so I think that line kind of like I can't remember if the Sharpie part comes before or after, but I'm just gonna say that part too because it kind of all ties together, and
Hmm.
it's the part in the video that was going viral
Hmm.
because the lyrics are insanely just freaking spot on.
Hmm.
But she says, "I've drawn out in Sharpie where I'd take the scissors," um, and then it goes into that part where it's like, I should have pulled up the lyrics before, but yeah, I've done every diet to make me look thinner. So why
Hmm.
do I still feel so goddamn inferior? Is what it says.
Hmm.
And yeah, like when I heard that, I was like, yeah, I've done every diet, and now I've lost a lot of weight. I feel a lot better about myself, but there are days when men or women, I've learned, I've
Hmm.
posted some content where I'm like, oh, being a woman, like these are the things we struggle with. And I get so many comments from men being like, no, this is a shared experience. Like, this is not
Hmm.
just women. And so
Hmm.
it's good to be reminded of that too. Like, men struggle with these things too.
Hmm.
Men also feel inferior and also feel like they're not enough and like they're not doing enough. Right. And so, yeah, that's honestly, that line right there was like, it just explains every feeling that I think I had at the beginning of my journey. Like
Wow.
the real raw, unfiltered, like that was my what I was saying in my mind every single day. So
Right, like sometimes they like artists can see, like they're artists and they're paid to do what they do because they can put those feelings into words and ways and convey them that like people like us just can't, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. She's oh my gosh, her songwriting is stupid good.
it's really good, right? Because like I felt every single word. I shared it with my family. And I think that's gonna probably end up in the playlist, right? Because it's a powerful song. And again, I take it from, like you said, like we all feel it, but like I just take it from, the mental struggle that produces, whether it's because of the physical or whatever the reason. It just seems to it works on both sides, right? It
Yeah.
works on both sides. And so totally appreciate you sharing that song with me. And with us, right? Like it's a super powerful song, and I think it really will relate to a lot of folks and their experiences. Now, likewise, you also shared Rainbow, Casey Musgraves. Um, so the song has two sides, right? And I like when I heard this, I immediately sent it to my wife and I was like, hey, there's somebody in our family who needs to hear this, right? But like there's two sides of this song that's happening in my opinion, right? There's the observer, which is Casey, and she's speaking about or to a person that she's observing, right? And my question is which one are you more often, or which one were you when you heard the song the first time?
I think I go back and forth, right?
Mhm.
I this song is just, oh my gosh, this is like a very loaded, this is going to be a lot. But I'm going to start at the beginning. Ever since I was like a little girl, I mean, I've been through a lot in life, and I live in Arizona, so I just want you to keep that in mind. Like, it's going to be relevant in a second. On every like significant day in my life, like my wedding day, I was married in December.
Mhm.
Like all the most significant days, it rains. Like it
Mm.
always rains. And that's crazy because I live in Arizona. It doesn't rain here. We are in a severe drought all the time.
Mhm.
And so it's always like it always rains, and it's just every time it rains, I'm like, it's like my sign that everything's gonna be okay, right? And so
Mm, mm,
I have a lot of different like rain stories and rainbow stories. And so when this song came out, I honestly like it didn't even really resonate with me a ton at first. Like I thought it was a gorgeous song. I've always been a Casey Musgraves fan. And I had it on my playlist, but it was, I was like, yeah, this is a pretty song. I'm a sucker for a piano and like a really pretty female voice.
mhm,
And but it wasn't until I had my daughter. My daughter was the worst sleeper in the world. She was horrible. She still is. She's 4 and she still wakes me up every night. Um, and I remember just like trying everything to get this little thing to go to sleep.
mhm,
And one night I put on my playlist and I hit shuffle and Rainbow is the first song that played.
mhm,
And she passed out like immediately. Like it just put her
mm,
right to sleep. And I was like, all right. So then I would play it all the time, right? Like I that was what got her to go to sleep every single night. It was Rainbow. And so I had to listen to the song a lot and listen to the words a lot.
okay, okay.
And she still asks for Rainbow like every night. And I actually had the opportunity last on my birthday last year. Casey Musgraves was actually in Phoenix. And
Mhm,
so we went and saw her and I heard the song live. And I just bawled the whole time because it was just like full circle moment, like hearing it
mhm,
actually coming out of Casey's mouth was like so cool. But anyways, yeah. So Rainbow really came into my life when I was like, I mean, I had heard the song before, but when I was in the trenches, like this song was when
mm,
I very first actually listened to the lyrics and like let them like actually hit me.
mhm,
I was like had I was deep in postpartum depression. I actually the night that I'm referring to that I played the song, I woke it was like 3 in the morning and I woke up and I remember she was crying and I remember just crying, like screaming crying because I was so tired, but I didn't know how to like navigate what was happening. And that,
wow.
it was just and for me to play that song and for
Oof,
her to just fall right asleep, like, yeah,
yeah.
this song really
Yeah, and
uh
just real quick, if I can, for context, so the song, and please, fill in anything I miss, is again about an observer, and this observer, it being Casey, is talking to or about a person that she's watching and saying like, hey, it's all good outside. It's okay. Things are fine. Like there's nothing, there's nothing to be upset about. But yet the person she's observing is still, as she says, stuck in this same old storm again, right? Like having these same issues, re-traumatizing themselves, and really not observing that like the situation has changed, the rainbow is out, the rain is stopped, and like again, like and so like now as you paint this picture of like when these words are washing over you, like I just got the chills. I mean, like that's what
yeah,
that's crazy context.
yeah, I know. Rainbow is like that was the one that I was like, I'm for sure talking about this song, like no questions about it. It's been my song. And like this podcast came at a super, super just interesting time because Rainbow, like the thing about life is that you're gonna have high highs and you're gonna have low lows, and there's always gonna be those ebbs and flows. And it seems like when we are riding the highs, we forget about the lows, right? And then when we're
Mhm,
at the lowest of lows, we forget that there's highs in life too, right? Like it's just as humans, we tend to just focus on what we're going through in that moment and not
mm,
about like, things could be better or things, life is short. We could be gone tomorrow. And
mhm,
and so this song has really just been with me through the highest highs and the lowest lows. And like it always is my song that just gives me hope. Like it always reminds me it's going to be okay. Like there is always a rainbow waiting for you at the end of whatever you have going on at in your darkest times. There's always something positive coming after, right? And
mhm.
as hard as it is to see and to find, and I have so many stories about the song. Like it's crazy. Like I I'll share this one just because It's really cool. Um, one of my best friends, she's actually my husband's childhood best friend. They grew up across the street from each other. Her husband actually passed. It'll be 4 years ago, on July 6th. And when he passed, it was, some of the lowest times of our lives, right? He was
Hmm.
he was one of our really good friends, and he left behind three kids. And
Hmm.
so I spent a lot of time at her house, just helping take care of them and helping take care of her. And one day, her girls, they were, I want to say, like 6 and maybe, they were literally little at the time, both under like the age of 8. And one of the little one was like, "Auntie Des, come out here." And I went out front, and she's like, "Look." And once again, we're in Arizona, okay? Like there's no rain, there's no rainbows here.
Hmm.
She looks up and she points to the sky, and there's a freaking double rainbow, like the most
Wow.
gorgeous rainbow I've ever seen in my life. And she's like, "Look, it's Daddy." And
Oh.
oh my gosh, I was like, and I immediately thought back to that. I was like, yes, it's just such like a metaphor to life. Like there will always be a rainbow waiting, like at the end of every storm,
Hmm.
always. And yeah, I lost my childhood best friend this week as well, and I've been getting little signs here and there that she's here, she's still, there's still something good to come in every hard part of life, and that this song just reminds me of that every single time. So
Well, of course, condolences on your loss and the loss of, her family. Um, and I wonder, when it comes to, your concept, your theory, your belief, right? Again, that theme of there being a rainbow on the side of, every storm. Um, is that something you have to tell yourself, or is there, other people, do you just go to this song? Like, how do you remind yourself, and how do you remind others, um,
yeah,
that there's a rainbow on the other side of hardship?
I think, like I said, when you're in the trenches, like I'll just use this week for an example because it's a great week or a great example. I found out on Wednesday, and I honestly did not want to get out of bed. Like I just wanted to stay in
Mhm.
bed. I still want to just be in bed. But I think the more life we live, the more we learn, like, and especially watching so many people close to me go through the hardest things that you could ever imagine. You just like you when you watch other people and when you live it yourself, the more times, the more you realize, like, hey, like life is just too short to miss out on any of it.
Mhm.
Like it's just so important to try our best. Anyways, it's easier said than done, but it's so important to try our best to wake up every single day and really live life to the fullest. And for me, a big part of that is showing my kids that that's important as well. Like my
Mhm.
kids my kids have been watching me grieve heavily this week, um and it's so important for me to show them what, the healthiest version of that looks like. And
Mhm.
it's not always going to be pretty, and that, I'm allowing
Mhm.
them to see that too, but I'm also allowing them to see that it's okay to pick yourself back up and continue forward. um and that's what life is, like you can bring that into every single part of life, the little
Mhm.
things, all the way up to the most, traumatic things you could think of. Like it's eventually you got to get up and just keep going.
See, and that's the real power right there. It's everybody's good when it's good, right? But are you able to continue showing up when it's not so good? And that's a real test. And I'll be honest with you. It's interesting. You said July 6th was the anniversary of childhood best friend's husband. Or I don't want to get the relationship messed up, but the
Yeah,
death
that's
of,
you got it
I was close, right?
right. No, you got it right.
Good. Okay. Well, 7 years ago on July 6th, my mother passed. And I believe I had just finished one of my favorite classes in the Army. And there's a reason why it's my favorite class in the Army, which is the Army Master Resiliency Trainer course. And when I think about this song, right, Rainbow, and what side of the song I'd be on, I think going back and forth is a fair assessment. But I think generally people will look at me and say, "Oh, like that's one of the most positive, people that they know," right? And I don't know if people really say that. I just, for context, right?
You're
But generally, it's not because I don't already have those emotions and thoughts and feelings, and and not acknowledging them and just saying like everything's good and we're good. What it more so is like I've probably gone as far down into those feelings as I could go rationally, maybe even a little irrationally, and then gone back over and said, okay, well, this is most likely the way I need to approach it, feel about it, think about it in order to move forward. And that is 100% a skill, a tool, that I got from the Master Resiliency Trainer course. Um, and prior to that course, I don't, you know, I'm sure there was a level of resiliency that I had because at 28 years old, 30 years old, like you like you said, the more life you live, you learn to move through things, right?
hmm
You may not live, you may not move through them well, but you move through them. And when my mom passed, it was actually the day before I did like a really interesting exercise, which is exactly like, what's the worst that could happen given a scenario, right? What's the worst that can happen? What's the best that can happen? And what's most likely to happen? And I remember getting to the very end of like the worst that can happen was like, I don't get this position. I end up alienating people. I don't move up. I get kicked out of the army, and then I can't afford, for my family to live, and then my mom dies, right? And I looked at that and like I got to it, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty down there. I was like, let me go ahead and go to the what's the best that could happen.
Yeah.
And so I did this best that can happen thing, and then I did the most realistic. And that next morning, I was running around the track, and like something just felt off, right? And later in the afternoon, I there were times where I just didn't have my phone on me because I didn't like I'm not a person who needs his phone all the time. If you see me and I have my phone, it's on me, right? I'm looking at it. But I don't need it on me. And so that particular day I didn't have it on me. And one of the other instructors came through, was looking for me. He's like, "Hey, it's your wife." And I was in the middle of a class, and as soon as he's like, "It's your wife," I was like, "Oh man, I kind of have a feeling where this is going." And I found out my mom had passed. I went home, try to handle the immediate stuff, and end up like calling everybody, which was really tough, right?
Yeah.
Like hearing my mom's best friends react to her passing. Those are the things that like made it really real. Um, but after it was all said and done, I had that grieving period, but I was still able to move forward in a lot of ways, in a lot of positive ways, because unknowingly I had already gone through the mental, gymnastics of how this situation played out, right? It was completely unrelated and at the time unforeseen. But again, like applying those tools and having those tools at hand really helped me kind of like see the rainbow out after the storm had already passed, And so, um, interesting that the days are the same and that,
Yeah, I
kind of
know. That is super interesting.
it's serendipitous, as I'd like to say,
Yeah.
but I just appreciate you, offering this song, because I also look at it from the standpoint of the person who's like, having hard things go and being able to move through them and watch somebody else go through them and saying like, "Hey, like you realize things are okay, right? Can we move on?" And that
Yeah.
person not being able to move on. How do you deal with that, or do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a weight loss coach, so I deal with that
Mhm.
every single day. I mean, every single day somebody's coming to me and, you know, they are telling me the hardest things that are happening in their lives, like, and that's the thing about weight loss. A weight loss journey is it's very similar to life, like you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, it's going to be hard to keep going, like, but if you keep going, you're going to get results, right? And it's the same thing in life and weight loss. And I tell this to my clients, almost every
Mm,
single day. Like my clients will come to me with really, really hard stuff. And that's kind of how we work through it. It's um, just what can we do today? Like what is one thing that you can commit to today? You don't need to do everything all at once. And
mhm,
you know, uh, same thing like walking with some of my closest friends on in their grief journeys is, okay, can we brush your teeth today? That was some of the
mhm,
things that we were trying to, can I brush your hair for you? Can I braid your hair for you today? Can I lay with you while you fall asleep today? Like it was
mhm,
just the smallest things. Um, but if you keep, compounding off of that, right? You're choosing to do this one thing today, and then you're adding another thing the next day and another thing, then eventually you can again. And so yes, I've definitely lived both ends of it.
mhm, mhm.
And yeah, yeah.
Wow, no, that is an incredible analogy, right? Like how similar those two, like really, really big things are, right? Like losing weight to somebody who doesn't have weight challenges is it's nothing. It's meaningless, right?
Yeah.
But to somebody who like that's their focus in life at the moment, like that is life.
Yeah.
And every single one of those challenges, right? Like, can you take control in this? Can you take this one step forward? That does really extrapolate and expound to like, like that's
Yeah.
I hope you
Yeah, we're
use that.
actually no, so we're actually rebranding my whole coaching business right now, and
Mhm,
it's we're rebranding it to be called StrongHER. And that's just kind of like a phrase that I started using. Just like
mhm,
I don't even know where I came upon it or whatever. I'm
mhm,
definitely not the first person to ever think of it, but I started using it just on social media, and then I have a podcast called StrongHER Blueprint, and so I was talking with the people that helped me with my business, and they were like,
mhm,
"Yeah, let's rebrand. Like, let's call it StrongHER." And as I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? I love this because yes, weight loss is weight loss. You
mhm.
gotta do the things that make you lose weight, but weight loss is also freaking life too.
Yeah.
Like, and that is what StrongHER is as well to me. Is you're picking yourself back up after the hard days and you're continuing on, and weight loss isn't just physical, it's so much mental. And
Mhm,
I honestly do think that I am as strong as I am now because I've been on a weight loss journey, and because I've had to you have to choose yourself every day on a weight loss journey. Like you have to
Ooh.
continuously choose yourself every single day, and every single day you choose yourself, you get stronger and stronger. And so I was like, StrongHER is that's where we're gonna land there. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bar, by the way. You gotta choose yourself every day. That's that's really in there. That's in the pocket. Totally support that pivot, right? For what it's worth. And speaking of again, just another layer of belief and choosing yourself. I think that really is just a great opportunity to bring in Daisies by Katy Perry. Um, how does this song mirror your experience and journey?
Daisies, oh man. So the first time I heard Daisies, I was driving home from so I used to own a boutique.
Mhm,
And I actually got kind of successful from it. It was a successful boutique, but it was not the industry I wanted to be in at the
mhm,
end of the day. But I was driving home we would go to shows. So I would
mhm.
go to, all these big cities. I think we were driving home from Texas at the time, like Dallas, and Daisies came on. And I had just come off a very high moment of, we had a super viral video on TikTok, sold like 20,000, $30,000 worth of clothes in like a day. Like it was insane.
Wow.
And that was kind of the first really big thing that had happened like that for me in my life, where I was like, whoa, like possibilities are endless. And
Mhm,
where I really kind of started believing in myself, because I had never believed in myself before this, I don't think.
mhm,
Like, I didn't know what I identified as, I guess. Like, for me, I was just a mom. Like, and,
mhm,
I shouldn't say just a mom, but for me, like, that was who I was. That was my
mhm,
identity.
mhm,
And I really struggled with that because I wanted more, obviously. Like, as moms, we put our lives on hold a lot of the times to
Hmm.
raise our babies. And um, in that process, we lose sight of who we truly are and what
Hmm.
we truly want. And so when I heard the song, I was like, yes, like this can happen for me. And like, so the
Hmm.
song is about, um, it's about essentially like believing in yourself and going out and doing it regardless of what other people are thinking and
Hmm.
regardless of the people that are telling you that you can't do it and that, you're not enough. Like,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter because if you believe you are enough, then that's that's the secret sauce, right? Like,
Hmm.
and so I was kind of on. I was in therapy a lot at that time too, just like healing childhood wounds and things
Hmm.
like that. And so it was a very good time to start the process of just believing in myself in general.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this song came at a really good time in my life. And especially because when you're on social media, I mean, people have told me the worst things that you could possibly tell somebody. Like,
Yeah.
I get so much hate. Everybody who has a good amount of followers gets hate.
Hmm.
If you've ever gone viral, you've gotten hate.
Yeah.
And everybody always asks me, like, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you not just like completely break down from those kinds of things?
Hmm.
And I'm like, I don't know, honestly. I really don't. I think it's kind of my personality. I've always kind of been like a I don't really care type of attitude.
Hmm.
Um, and I also like owe so much to my mom too because she was like such a hype girl growing up. Like she would be like, "No, like who cares what they think? Like you're beautiful." And and so it's funny like now raising a daughter, my daughter, I was telling my husband yesterday, she identifies as beautiful. Like that's what she identifies as, and I love it for her. And we'll be like, Josie, like you're so sweet. And she's like, no, I'm beautiful.
There we
So
go.
I'm like, you know what? This is like it's 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 cool raising a daughter and like seeing how to raise somebody who truly believes in themselves.
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
think I had that in me, but obviously life freaking knocks you down. And um I was not as resilient as I was or as I am now at the beginning of
Hmm.
my social media journey. Like I would get a negative comment and I would just be depressed for like days because I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, like this person doesn't like me. But now it's
Hmm.
like honestly, the more people that don't like me, the better because like that means like the more haters you have, the more successful you probably are going to
Mm.
be.
There we
So
go.
that's
There we go.
that's how I see it now. But yeah, no, Daisies is basically all about that.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because Cat Williams said, "If you don't have, a hater, you need some more," right? So,
Yeah.
Daisies was like, I heard it, and that was actually the first song from your list that I checked out, and it was like a quick snippet. And Katy Perry, is a very successful artist, right? But like not necessarily, my bag. Um, but when I heard this one, I was like, oh, this has some substance. I can kind of, pay attention to the lyrics here. They're not, just droning. And it had like very strong like hold my beer energy, right? Like
Yeah.
dealing with the doubters, believing in the self. And like one line was, I'm the long shot, I'm the Hail Mary, why can't it be me?
Yep.
And you say what?
No, I said, yep, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that like that, for one, that line, like why can't it be me, is a variation of one that I remember having a conversation with a senior NCO or senior leader in the army one day, and he was just like, why not you? Right. And so innocuous, right? Like, why not you? But then
Yeah.
it's, the more you try things, it's like, well, why not me?
Yeah.
Like who else? Right. Because, like if it's somebody else, the chances of me saying, oh, I could do it better, I become one of the peanut gallery. I become one of the haters. I become one of the,
Yep.
the nameless, faceless, people in the crowd that is critiquing versus being active and really going after something. And so, oftentimes, I do withhold my initial thoughts, unless I plan on taking action, and then take action, right? Because if I'm not willing to get in there, then it's definitely not going to be me, right?
Yeah.
But if I am doing it, why not me? Who else, right? Like it's supposed to be me. And so I really did appreciate this song, and I appreciate you putting it forward, and just really all of the focus that, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but all of the focus on belief, right? Because not just belief in yourself, but there's also like belief in harmful ideas, right? Like
Yeah.
if you believe in, like, it's just you really, these songs really highlighted the power of belief. And so I just appreciate you um and bringing that theme to the forefront, as well as tension, right? Tension and the value of the other, right? Like you just said, like you need haters because that helps kind of like gauge your level of success. And just on those key things, like what are your thoughts on like the belief and tension that these songs bring? Like, was that intentional?
No, I mean, I think music is just, I don't listen to a whole lot of music that doesn't have like substance to it. And I mean, I honestly, okay, if I'm like lifting, if it's a good leg day or a good like back day, I'm listening to like gangster rap. Like that is what I'm listening to. But I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of that actually has substance to it too. I actually was going through those songs too because I was like, well, like these actually, a lot of these songs mean a lot to me too. But
Hmm.
a lot of my songs are like this, and my husband sometimes will make fun of me because he's like, "You just really like a like feel good, like getting your feelings, like makes you want to cry and just like change your life all in one song." Um, and so I think that's kind of just like my general like the kind of music I listen to a lot of the time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, so I don't think it was necessarily intentional, but I'm also just living in a like currently where I'm at, I guess. There's a lot of belief has had to take place in order for me to get to where I am right
Hmm.
now. And a lot of belief is going to have to continue to happen for me to continue to live, the dreams that I'm living out. And so, um, yeah, I did. It wasn't intentional, but I guess it's just kind of who I am in this moment right now too.
Right on. That's an amazing note, I think, to close on. You are a person who is thriving off of self belief right now, and I think for me personally, that is something that I aspire to do. Right, like showing up well, and showing up for yourself for all three different types of showing up. And I think you're doing all three types. And it shows, the results are there. And so just want to say I appreciate you and the way you show up and the way you show up for others. Um, and so with that being said, would you mind leaving a parting message as well as where people can find you?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, you guys can find me at Schnell on everything. Like I'm just the same across the board, so really easy to find me. If you type in Des and search it, it'll probably pull up too. But yeah, I think that's all about left I have to say.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for your time, and especially amongst the dynamic week you've been having. Definitely appreciate you and just what you've shared. And for all others, find us at Rhymes That Resonate podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and check out the episode.
I get no rest. I